Chelsea,
Brian.
um, I just got out of a situation where I was letting my kid drive me around. He's practicing learning how to drive. Near death experience almost every single time, but I came up with an idea and I want to run it by you.
Because of a near-death experience,
Because of a
you
near
came up
death
with an idea.
experience, my creative juices got going. You and I have known each other for less than probably 6 months. I'm thinking a project, if you want to do it with me, a limited run 24 episode live series of you and I coming up with ideas and skits on how to do a podcast, possibly a podcast idea, and then at the end of the 24 episodes, getting help from people that are joining the lives, people that'll hop in and give us some ideas or let us know if the ideas are great. At the end of 24 episodes, we decide whether or not we're going to create that podcast or we're just going to kind of step away. What do you think?
Let's do it. Do it live. That's the point of a live. We're embodying the whole purpose. You will
And
see us build it live.
it's a matter of throwing out ideas, running through practice ideas and skits, and then anybody that joins us, we get live feedback. 24 episodes and that's it. Then we're done, and then we announce to everybody if we're going to continue with the project or not.
Sounds awesome. I love me some improv. Let's go for it. Yes, and join us Friday.
Okay, that right there is a teaser to the latest project we are doing here on Tossing Salad Podcast. It's going to be kind of a spin-off, as they say. It's going to be Tossing Salad Podcast presents Brian and Chelsea Make a Podcast. What is that, you say? Or what is that you ask, actually? Great question. So have you ever sat there, however you get your inspiration? For me, it's always in moments of stress, specifically, as you guys heard, as I was letting my 16-year-old drive me around town, going to and from wherever he needs to go. He's learning how to drive. He's going to get his driver's license soon. And the moment struck me that I wanted to try to do something a little different with a friend of mine, Chelsea, who, as you guys probably know by now, if not, Chelsea and I know each other through another acquaintance within the garden community that I've been a part of for so many years. Her sister Brianna and I have been friends on Instagram for a while now. A few months ago, I decided to do a Star Wars podcast on Tossing Salad, and Brianna was like, oh, you should talk to my sister about it. She's really into Star Wars. So now you guys are actually putting all the pieces together. You guys remember Chelsea from the Star Wars podcast where we ranked all 11 Star Wars theatrical releases. We did a Star Wars movie night where we watched episode 1, the worst movie of all the movies there within the Star Wars franchise. Had a great time. And Chelsea and I have had a few other occasions to go back and forth and have some fun on Instagram. And I thought, it would be fun to work on this project with her. It's not somebody that I've known for forever, but I think we kind of get along. Maybe it's just me. Maybe she's like, she feels like she's being forced to do this or something. I don't know. I don't think so. But Chelsea and I have done several lives that nobody has watched. We've had a lot of fun, and I do think that the dynamic between the two of us when we do our lives would make for a great podcast project, whatever that may be. Enter in Brian and Chelsea Make a Podcast. You guys get to follow us through 24 episodes, live episodes, where we actually try to hammer out the details of potentially what this podcast could be. So if anybody's out there, if you are out there and you've ever thought, you know what, I want to do a podcast, and I've got a friend that we would have a blast doing it, this would be the show for you guys to listen to and watch, because this is going to be Chelsea and I, show by show, going over different ideas that we can do. Some of the episodes are actually going to be us doing a trial balloon of doing that particular idea. And then at the end of 24 live episodes, what's that, like 6 months from now maybe, we will decide on the final episode. I don't know if that'll be episode 24 or 25. We will decide, do we continue with this project and make that podcast that we've been working on, all these ideas? Or do we kind of say, this was a fun little side project. Time to kind of just package it up, put the box back into the basement, leave it as is, and then we kind of just walk away from this. I think it's something that you guys would be interested in. So if you have an idea for a podcast, you just don't know how to get things going, I would say take a listen to our lives that we're doing weekly. You'll want to follow us on Tossing Salad Podcast because, again, this is going to be one of those Tossing Salad Podcast presents Brian and Chelsea making a podcast. I know it sounds confusing. Just follow us on Instagram, YouTube. We're going to do these weekly lives of us working on these podcast ideas, getting feedback, live feedback from people joining the lives, and you guys are going to help us craft and mold these show ideas. It's going to be kind of a variety show. And then in the end, we'll tell you guys, are we going to do this or not? It's going to be fun. This is going to be the first episode. We recorded this last night on our live. This is going to be the Tossing Salad Podcast episode for the week. It's going to be a little different because it's not edited. It's the live show, a little over an hour long, but you'll get to hear and you'll get to experience us coming up with the show as we do it. I hope you guys enjoy.
Oh, there you go. That's the prompt. Hi, everybody.
We are live.
We are live. Welcome to the inaugural first live of Brian and Chelsea Make a Podcast.
You know, the funny thing about this is I think everybody kind of thinks that we have this grand plan already kind of written out and we're just going to announce something. That's not even the case. It's literally let's do this as we go and let's just start on Friday night.
Yeah, we're doing it live. We are going to be live extemporaneously working through what potential podcast we may want to run, which I think makes it more fun.
Well, I think it allows us, when you and I have casually gone over just some ballpark ideas of just different things that we can do for a live. But I thought that it would be kind of fun to actually go through a set. What was the word that you just used?
Extemporaneous?
Yeah. I don't know what that word is, but
it's doing it live. It's just like speaking off the cuff.
But I think it'll be fun to have 24 live episodes to where you and I kind of hash out different kinds of ideas and skits that we come up with and get real live feedback from people that are popping in and out of the lives and have an opportunity to maybe test some of these out. There may be some lives where we're like, okay, let's try that idea and let's do it for the next live. And then at the end of the 24 episodes that we do together, we sit down and honestly say, do we think we have something, or do we just say, look, that was fun, but let's box it up and put it back in storage and do something else.
Yep. The fun part about this too is it's a creative pressure cooker, which is ironic because the idea came up in a moment, as everyone saw from the stories, where Brian feared for his life in a car in the same kind of creative pressure cooker. And so where do you recreate that? But live in front of potential audience, at least Julie. Great to have you today, Julie.
Wannabe Ontario farm girl, who is, I think I saw on Instagram, she is celebrating her 100th follower on YouTube herself.
Ooh.
We just crossed 100 for the Tossing Salad podcast. And just to let people in on, okay, well, how does this relate to the Tossing Salad podcast? It's probably a separate project, sort of like when you hear the Tossing Salad podcast presents, and then this Brian and Chelsea make a podcast. I keep having to pause at podcast because,
We're not doing a podcast.
well, we're not necessarily doing a podcast, but we're doing a live.
Best name ever.
But I got the idea also when I was sitting in the car letting my 16-year-old drive me around because of that movie, Zach and Mary Make a Porno. Have you seen that?
So I
Did you
had seen
catch
it
that or
so
no?
long ago that I didn't know what it meant, but I wondered, is this just a play on the name or was that the plot of the movie as well? Because I don't remember the plot of the movie.
Yeah, it's been so long. It was just it's a name of the movie that I remembered. And when I was sitting there in the passenger seat, I was like, I think we can just make the idea of trying to put something together as the show itself and play off of the, Zach and Mary Make a Porno. And it's just,
But
right?
I don't
Brian
know
and
if the
Chelsea make
plot
a
of the
podcast.
movie was they do it like live in the moment. Was that the plot?
Maybe we're going to have to watch one or watch clips of it for one of our live episodes just to kind of see.
Yeah,
I didn't think
I'm
that
gonna
deep
rewatch
into it, but the adrenaline was flowing. And I don't know, like, how many kids do you have?
I have one 2-year-old, so
A
he's not
2-year-old.
driving cars.
Okay. Well, for anybody that is going to listen to this,
Amanda's on too, by the way. Hi, Amanda.
and you have kids that are of age of where you're teaching them how to drive, there is nothing. I'm trying. I've tried to think of things that are scarier for a parent than to be in the passenger seat of it and letting your kid drive you around. And I there's something about relinquishing power that's hard to do, but there's also something that comes with years and years of being just aware, situational awareness, to where as drivers, as you age and you have experience, you're able to see and acknowledge certain things that are going on in the road, right? Something that a young kid's not going to be able to do, even though they have all the hand-eye coordination and they have all the knowledge that they think that they need, but they don't have the experience of seeing things unfold.
No.
And there's nothing scarier than to be helpless and taking and just letting them do it. And I have to really distract my brain when I'm sitting there, or else I'm going to micromanage him turn by turn, and I don't want to do that. I want to help, obviously, but I want to let him make a lot of the decisions. But I was kind of sitting there and I'm like, oh my God, this idea kind of popped up, and I was literally he was driving while I was sending you the messages.
Yep. So you don't know this about me, but I don't love driving. I drive very rarely because of how much anxiety driving gives me. So I understood what you meant immediately. You were like, my son is driving and I'm scared. I was like, I don't know if I could do that. Hopefully, with enough therapy, by the time my son will be driving, I can ride in the car with him.
It's going to take
But
it's a special personality type that can do it. As a parent,
my mom could not ride in the car with us. My dad could not stop micromanaging us. So I'm impressed that you could do neither micromanaging, but also riding in the car.
and so are you not a good driver?
I want to say not a good driver. I lived in DC, San Francisco, and then Manhattan and didn't drive. So it's more of like we didn't drive. Why do you drive?
But when you do, I mean, are you a good driver? Does your husband say you are a good driver or no?
I drive very rarely. We have one car shared between the two of us. We work from home. I drive very rarely. Like rare. This is an urban thing. I took public transport I moved to a city when I turned 21. And I was basically taking public transportation 99% of the time up until moving to Atlanta, which Atlanta, weak excuse for a city with public transportation. So,
Amanda who
Ooh, look at
I
that.
think Amanda's going for like listener of the month for February. Also, she was my Tossing Salad listener of the month for January, simply because here's the one thing that got her that award is she actually went back and listened to all 3.5 hours of our live that you and I did that not one person stopped by for.
Because it was hilarious.
She went back and I think she said it took her several days to go through, and I'm like, why would you do that? But she did.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? My God, somebody that's going to do that deserves to have that first award as being listener of the month. And I will say that she has blazed the trail, because I think there's like 20 other people that have watched that live for some reason. I don't know. I think it was entertaining. I love doing it with you.
I mean, I hope people love it, because we're doing 24 episodes more. And wait, are we going to answer her question? Because I'm not sure I know how to answer her question.
So does YouTube not show you who is watching unless he or she comments? I don't think so. So like if you're in, so we're using StreamYard for those of you that are watching the live here. And within StreamYard, we're not actually in YouTube. So I don't know, and I don't see users that are, you know, the actual people that are watching. All it shows us is that there's certain people watching. Usually that number's 0. There's 2 right now. And then the only other reason why we would know who these people are is if they make a comment. Then if you comment, which we're encouraging people to make comments as we talk about our podcast idea creation show, when you guys put stuff into the comments section, we'll be able to see who you are and put you up there, just like Amanda is right now. You guys look on the screen and we put her comment up.
And our sort of first topic of our not really having a list of topics for today was, what is the idea? And apparently Brian and I both need to watch Zach and Mary make a porno, because neither of us know what the plot is. But it gave Brian the idea of the name, Brian and Chelsea Make a Podcast. However, I may have a better analogy for our show. My husband heard the idea and his immediate response was like, oh, that'll be great. I love Seinfeld. Just a show about nothing.
Is that what he thinks our show is about?
That
or
was
is that
his
what
takeaway.
the Zach and Mary was?
No, that was his takeaway about our show. So I would encourage listeners, if you could comment based on what we're discussing today, what do you think our show is? My husband Mike thinks it's Seinfeld. Brian thinks it's Zach and Mary Make a Porno, but we don't know what that's about. So for anyone else, what do you think that we're creating? Because we're trying to get inspiration. Zach and Mary needed rent money. Oh, someone knows the plot of the movie. Thank God.
So gardening, so that's what gardening on. I'm going to pop up gardening on the prairie just because you're helping us out with the comments, and I'm getting
Really
practice. So
appreciate it.
as you guys make comments and I'm seeing them, and you'll notice that I'll be quite distracted also. So I'll be putting stuff up on the screen as we go, and hopefully Chelsea can handle the reins of the show and keep us kind of on topic when we're discussing things. But was that the plot of the movie,
Elise,
Zach and
thanks,
Mary?
Elise.
They needed rent money, and that's why they were making a porno.
Elise, do you know the plot of the movie? I think at least Zach and Mary Make a Porno gives a good inspiration. Brian and Chelsea Make a Podcast, a variety show. And then Seinfeld is sort of a show about nothing, and this kind of, not a show about nothing, but it's a show about creation of something, and to create something starts at nothing.
Is this just a fucking crazy idea though? Because again,
the variety show, why?
No, doing this with you.
Oh,
in a sense, again, I know you as of 6 months ago, and our first real interaction was just doing the Star Wars podcast. You came on the show through your sister, who I'm friends with in gardening.
Yep.
And all I heard was about this sister of hers, and you got to do it with my sister Chelsea. She's a Star Wars nerd or whatever. She knows all about this stuff. I was like, "What, you think she'll do it with me?" And the funny thing was, I was like, "Okay, well, give me the rundown of your sister." And Brianna, who's your sister, was like, "Oh no, I'm going to let you'll find out."
Yep.
And I was like,
Well,
okay.
one of the best parts about that, and Amanda says everyone loves a train wreck, so Amanda, you're about to love this. I had queued up for us today to pitch the idea, which we're kind of doing, but then to also share about ourselves. And I think you sharing how little we've known each other is a really good intro to that. Because we've never really done like an introduction to each other more than what do you know about Star Wars?
Well, okay. So can that be a possible show?
Yeah, like we just share, we actually introduce ourselves to each other.
An introduction show, but maybe we have whoever joins us, they ask us questions and we have to answer them. And maybe it's
Sure.
it's a
Ask me anything.
a la truth or dare type thing to where we get certain passes. And then if we take a pass, we have to take a drink of, like, I have what's left of my box wine tonight, and make it fun. So this is.
Did you
okay,
catch
so
my
this is what-
treason, by the way? I'm not drinking wine tonight. I'm
I
drinking
thought we were
beer.
drinking wine tonight, but okay.
We were. I said my treason. I betrayed her.
So let's see here. Pick topics out of a hat, sight unseen prior to the episode. So this is why, Chelsea, I'm hoping that you're better at this than I am, in a sense that these ideas that come up, how are we going to keep track of them? Because
Oh, did you hear me typing? I'm typing.
Are you typing them? Okay, good.
I'm typing them. Yeah. I like your idea. I think we could make a show out of the Truth or Dare AMA drinking show. I also think for fun for the audience and for ourselves, we should do a little intro-y thing now. Like just a little bit. We have at least 2 people watching. Elise, Amanda.
Okay,
what are some questions that Brian and I should share about ourselves to get to know each other? Think of this as like, you know, we've been on like 3 dates, but we've never really had the like get to know you chat.
Does this seem like we're dating to you? Kind of like we're feeling each other out?
We're business dating. It's all dating.
Yeah. So, okay. So Amanda and Elise, give us 2 potential questions.
Amanda, we can't play that game because we don't know the answers. Amanda said, what if the audience gives you questions to answer about the other host? We don't know anything about each other.
Yeah, we're not like a married couple. Like,
favorite foods. Okay, we got one. Julie says favorite foods. Let's do favorite foods: breakfast, dinner, dessert.
Breakfast, dinner, and dessert.
My favorite breakfast.
Hold on, because I've got to get good at putting up the comments.
I'm too fast.
Julie, I love this avatar too. It's very like Lord of the Rings-ish type.
Oh yes.
It's beautiful. Okay, so favorite foods. And this is
dessert.
Again, this is why I wanted to do a show like this. 24 shows like this where we're interacting with people and coming up with ideas that we could potentially do for a podcast show or series.
Yep. And
so
we should do the fun questions, and then people, these should be like questions for us to decide if we want to do this together long term. Like this is also, there's a question we're going to have to ask each other. I've been watching Perfect Match on Netflix, which is absolute trash.
Oh, me too.
But I love it. And at the end, they have to decide if they're a perfect match. And that's kind of what we're doing. So I like these questions. We should discuss them. But also, like, y'all need to give us some questions that are like helping us assess our business relationship through this.
And it should be like some questions. Knowing some of the people on here, they should be giving us questions that they're like, I don't think that they would answer that live. And then I'm curious to see how Chelsea would do on hard questions. But let's do the favorite foods.
Okay. French toast. Dinner right now is chicken piccata, and dessert is chocolate lava cake.
As food that you're making, or am I asking too many questions? Or what?
I don't cook. No.
So these are foods that your husband will cook for you that are your favorites?
I actually make chicken piccata. That's my meal. But yes, he makes French toast. I make the chicken piccata, and he makes chocolate lava cake.
Can I ask you just a real quick side question?
Yeah.
Why aren't you with your fancy mic that we took the pictures for the thumbnail with?
because I don't have the correct hookup for it yet.
I'm sitting here and I'm looking at our thumbnail on my other screen and I'm like, we both have super fancy mics. Why aren't you using your setup?
Because the adapter didn't work.
Oh,
I know.
okay.
So I need to
Well,
get a different
but
adapter.
that's okay, because
I know.
this is also the how-to. Like there has to be something to where people can ask us questions. Like maybe they're curious of starting a podcast or live or whatever, and they want to know, well, what software do we use? What microphones? Do we use a microphone? Can we use a gaming headset?
Yeah.
You know?
How do my Apple headphones sound compared to Brian's fancy mic, which I have the same fancy mic as him? But wait, Brian, what's your favorite food?
So my favorite food, just off the top of my head, and I'm going to pick things that I can cook that I usually do. For breakfast, I'll go with a nice little omelet in my cast iron, of course. For lunch, I've got to go with some kind of a fancy. Well, when I say fancy, a locally home deli where I can get just a fantastic sandwich, whether it's like an Italian sandwich or whatever kind of sandwich it is, but it's like a mom and pop store. Everywhere I go out of town, I'm on Google looking for places to get a sandwich. I have to get a sandwich locally to that place, so that's my lunch. And then dinner, I could go with a steak that I make, a ribeye, that I make a damn good ribeye, or I will. Okay, the one thing that I can't cook because I have to cheat, but if we can get it from a good Indian place, is I'd love Indian food.
Yep.
So there you go.
I love it. What kind of Indian food? Like, what's your dish?
Like from what region or the specific dish?
What's the dish that you like?
Okay, so I'm going to be very. You know what? I like all the dishes. I do. I was going to say like butter chicken, tikka masala, gulab jamun for dessert there, if that's how you say it. I'm not sure. I do. I love tasting a bunch of different things.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of things that I don't like to eat, but I'm a sucker for Indian, Thai, Vietnamese. I mean, any of those, but I'm kind of on an Indian kick. So Julie, very, very good question.
And our next question from Elise, which I think we have to address because this will help in the like how we work together relationship. What's your biggest pet peeve?
Oh, fuck.
I know I don't know the answer off the top. Maybe I do. Hang on. Immediately I start thinking about people that upset me or like moments that have been upsetting, you know? What comes to mind when you're trying to think of your biggest pet peeve?
See, my problem with all these questions is I can't just simply answer. And Amanda's already like, Brian's already not following the instructions. Amanda, give me a break for just a second.
Put him in the hot seat.
My biggest pet peeve, I don't know if I just have one, and that's my pet peeve, is I have so many pet peeves, and there's so many things that rub me the wrong way with people. My biggest pet peeve is probably somebody that doesn't have a sense of humor about themselves. You know what I'm saying?
That tracks.
I guarantee I will not get along with them.
That tracks. I like that. Mine will get more intense because I've had some moments with people in the last 6 months. My biggest pet peeve is when people tell me that I intimidate them, but what they really mean is their lack of confidence is like challenged by my confidence.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Regarding what you just said?
Yeah.
I think I understand the intimidating part.
About me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been told more than once.
And it's not a bad thing. I can see and I identify with how, I don't know if it's the same with guys and girls, maybe with you,
Mm,
but and that'd be a good topic somehow.
yeah.
But there's a little bit of intimidating factor with you, and I discovered that oddly enough on the Star Wars discussion that we had.
And during Star Wars
Because
discussion?
yes, because I was like, that's when I realized that certain topics that you were talking about were at a level of analysis that I was like, fuck.
It's mostly blowing smoke, really.
I mean, when you were breaking down the gray area of Star Wars and you were taking it back to like the Holocaust and stuff like that, and I was like, are you fucking kidding me? This is Star Wars.
I know.
And I'm
It's
like, I'm going to say, I
amazing.
mean, and nothing that I've analyzed in Star Wars was anywhere near in depth or like to a level that I'm like, I thought that would be the end of it. But then I realized you actually have a sense of humor. So
Thank you. Yes, I totally have a sense of humor. Amanda's cracking me up.
that's our pet peeves.
Pet peeves. I like that. It's good to get that out. Going deep with Brian and Chelsea is a name suggestion, or digging deep. So one of the reasons too that I have to share, or that I think this is kind of fun and we should do a version of this, is like part of the point, just to reiterate, is like in 24 episodes, we kind of decide what's next. So we got to get to know each other through this experience. All right, we have one more from Amanda, and you challenged, before she posted this, you challenged the audience with like, someone ask us something we wouldn't answer live. And I'm thinking that maybe where this question came from, which is your guilty pleasure. Though I can think of a guilty pleasure both of us share that is embarrassing, but we've already discussed live.
So I guess Amanda's getting more than one question.
Oh yeah, I gave her. Well, you challenged them to come up with hard questions, and I think she came up with one.
I mean, if we had 50 viewers, are we going to be able to give them all multiple questions? You guys are lucky if there's only 3 of you out there.
We have 3 viewers; they get whatever they want.
You guys get special treatment.
It's a captive audience here.
Okay, guilty pleasure. So all of these are like, I think are fairly easy questions.
I mean, this one could
I
be
think
hard.
there has to be ones, and I kind of like the idea where there's questions in a bucket, sort of, and then we're drawing them, and that could be one. Hear me out. Again, this is why we're talking about this and throwing out ideas. Maybe that's one where we have a guest host that's asking you and I questions, and they have fielded all the questions from everybody into a hat of easy questions, and then the hat of hard questions.
Yep.
And make it a game, like whoever can answer the most, or whoever gives the best answers, or something.
I was just watching. Have you seen James Corden's "Spill Your Guts"?
I've seen and heard of it. I go back and forth on this guy because I do think he's a nice guy. I there's just parts of his persona that just drives me nuts.
Totally fair. So I only watch the TikTok versions. I don't watch the show. I watch the best distilled clips in 30 seconds, which is how I consume a lot of TV.
And this is the spill your guts or fill your guts, I assume, right?
Yeah, it's something like that. I don't know if it's the same, but there could be a concept of, so I wrote down and ask me anything, truth or dare. But if we wanted to truly do truth or dare, could be answer the question or do this thing.
I love it. So and that could be not only one that we test out on one of our 24 episodes here.
Yeah.
But that could also be a live running thing on our podcast.
Amanda's asking the same question twice because she wants to make sure I answer it. Either that or there's a bug in your software.
So guilty pleasure. Let's answer Amanda's guilty pleasure.
Yeah. Guilty pleasure, trash TV, like absolute trash TV. I finished Perfect Match while I was potting up my peppers. I highly recommend Perfect Match.
I'm
terrible.
watching that too. it's something that we have to watch. So my wife and I, and those are shows that I have introduced to her that she will now entertain and watch before we go to bed, just because it's a great way for us to unwind. And then, we can play on our phones and, uh, kind of halfway watch the show until somebody's like crying or whatever. I mean, trashy TV shows. I love that answer.
Yeah.
For me,
Nice.
guilty pleasure. Oh man, there's so many guilts and pleasures. I'm trying to put them both together. I really think my greatest guilty pleasure is honestly being absolutely like alone, like everybody to leave me alone.
Doing
Where
what?
nothing. And
Nothing.
this is why a lot of people don't understand. They're like, you asked the question. My wife asked the same thing. What are you doing when you're doing nothing? I'm doing nothing.
Like you're not on your phone.
No, not really.
You're just
I could
sitting.
sit there. Yeah, I could be like in my plant room and I'll stand and stare at the plants for it'll be good 5-10 minutes.
Oh, I could do 5-10 minutes. I thought you were about to say hours.
Oh, no, not hours. But then I could sit on my deck and look out on my tree line for seems like forever. Or I'll come
That's
down to
beautiful,
my office and look at the disaster that's my office, and then look at the stack of papers that I should be doing my taxes, which I should have been doing them all today, but I would do like 10 minutes, and then I would do 10 minutes of going and watching TV or doing something fun, and then come back and do another 10 minutes. That's my guilty pleasure is doing nothing. And I've been made to feel like there's something wrong with that.
That's like mindful. That's not, I don't even think that can count as guilty. Like sitting in my thoughts. That
Yeah, but
sounds
I'm
beautiful.
not really thinking of anything.
You don't, that's meditation.
Is it?
Thinking of nothing. That's the goal of meditation.
Yeah, well, my wife doesn't think that way.
Start saying you're meditating. It'll fix everything.
That does sound a lot better.
Amanda has a comment up here that she's posted twice.
Which one is it? And I'll put it up.
You'll know.
Am I intimidated by you because you use big words? Is that the one?
Oh no, she said, okay, here's a tough one. Chelsea, if Brianna had not vouched for Brian, would you have interacted with him? And Amanda knows the answer to that question, so I find that highly unfair.
Oh, I know the answer to that one.
You do?
Yeah.
What do you think it is?
No.
Yeah, the answer is no.
No.
I don't trust men normally without vouching from a woman.
And probably not just any woman. If your sister vouches for somebody.
Yeah.
But okay, so let's turn that question. Let's dig a little deeper.
But you would have never reached out to me.
Does her vouching for somebody, is that always 100%?
Yes.
Oh, really? Oh.
Always 100%. This is like twin code. But she's very honest and specific in her vouch. It was kind of like a blanket thing. It was like, do this thing. You're going to love it.
Interesting.
Yeah. My only no reaction when she told me, because that's how much I trust her, like character analysis, was I'm not actually that much of an expert on Star Wars. She was like, you're more than me. It'll be great. It's like, okay.
Well, and it was a perfect match for Star Wars and having us kind of go into the conversation of things. And there's a lot of things, especially the whole gray area, that since you and I have kind of talked about it, like my whole Star Wars world is kind of turned upside down and I'm looking at it kind of different. And I still think that we need to do kind of a follow-up, maybe not a live watch of the worst Star Wars movie ever, like we tried to do, and then it was just you and I for the longest time because everybody bailed on us. But yeah, so do you if you vouch for somebody, does that go the other way with your sister then?
That's a good question.
I don't normally vouch for anybody because I already know if most people that I know, whether I like them or not, they can vouch for whoever. It honestly doesn't really mean that much to me.
Really?
Yeah. Because
Oh.
our tastes are going to be so different anyways.
I always like vouch for people in context, though. I rarely am saying, meet this person, you're going to love them holistically. It's normally like, I think you'll enjoy doing X. Have fun on this. Trust me.
I mean, was she just saying, okay, yeah, he's not a perv? Is that basically what she was saying, or what? I mean, let's just get right into it.
She said, do the Star Wars podcast with Brian. Oh, well, actually, I think she called me a little tipsy because it was post one of your lives. And she was like, you should do this Star Wars podcast with Brian. I put you up for it. You would love it. It'll be a lot of fun. You two would like get along well. And I was like, okay.
Well, good.
Yeah, there you go. That easy. But yeah, no.
That was a good question, Amanda.
Yeah. All right, let's do one more and then I'm switching topics. If someone gave you $1,000 to spend on yourself right now, what would you buy? And I can answer because it's very easy for me. And I'm not going to say it correctly. And this is where our garden sides may or may not come out. I want the rain collection watering irrigation system. I have the one I want starred. And that's what I would buy right now.
What is that called?
There's a name for it, but I want like a rain collection irrigation system. I'm calling it the wrong thing. It's like a rain barrel.
Right.
And then it connects to an irrigation system in my garden.
Oh. Yeah, no, that'd be cool.
That's on my list. But I'd only do it for $1,000. Doesn't cost that much because I don't want to build it. So I'd pay my handyman.
Yeah, I don't know if it just kind of depends on the quality of one. I mean, that's like putting a few different things together to get that kind of a system. Are you talking, is there a specific thing that isn't like that system?
It's not that fancy. It's like pipes with holes in them and the water just like goes like this. And then the pipes just connect to a trash can. Very simple.
It's a great
I just don't want to build it. I built a whole irrigation system last year and found out our neighborhood in the city of Atlanta has terrible water flow or water power or whatever that's called. And we tried to get it fixed. We called a plumber. We called the city of Atlanta. They came multiple times and they were like, we cannot make your water flow faster. It's impossible. And apparently if like our neighbors were telling us that they can tell if like a lot of people are showering at the same time, like they try to avoid showering in the morning.
Jeez.
Yeah. So I can't use all the traditional irrigation systems everyone loves.
Well, I think, and there's a couple things that I've needed to buy specifically for the podcast and all the live stuff that we're doing. And if someone gave me $1,000, I'm waiting for Julie to say, boom, look in your accounts. I just gifted you guys on Instagram $1,000. Thanks, Julie. It would be a new computer because I'm using a laptop that's like 2017, which is fine. It does enough.
Is it fine?
The editing takes way too long to do because it has to render because I'm doing all video stuff.
Yeah, 2017.
So it renders forever, like to the point to where you have to leave and just come back in a few hours. You can't edit like that. I can't maintain a weekly or a once every other week podcast and have a system that does that. I have to be able to sit down and edit within that hour or two. This stuff to where I can do a little bit and then I have to render it out and like walk away and then find that motivation to come back and get into that same creative window hours later. It doesn't work. So the $1,000 would go towards, that's half of what I need for the computer that I need. That's a good question, Julie. I'm going to look to see my Reels bonus to see if $1,000 mysteriously shows up.
Buy me a hat. Okay. I love it. Okay. So,
I love this idea of other people asking us questions, and I do think that could be either an actual episode, or it could be something to where it's a section of the podcast
yep.
to where people send in questions that they want to know, burning questions for Brian and Chelsea, and then we have to answer them.
I think I may keep our audience suggested name, Digging Deep with Brian and Chelsea.
Keep all of that, because depending on what we end up deciding to do after the 24 episodes.
And if it's a variety show, this would be a segment on the show.
Yeah.
But the other element that could help our large audience watching right now help us frame questions that we discussed was, our idea, who we are. And now we're on to why both of us are doing this individually and together.
Yeah.
Obviously, you pitched an idea. Why am I doing that?
Yeah, but you know what? I wouldn't have pitched that idea. Finding the right person to pitch that idea to is one thing. And it has to be somebody that fits in with a window of creativity that I think we're somewhat compatible on. And also not afraid of trying something new or different. But I'm kind of curious. Yeah. So answer that question then for yourself.
Yeah. So, I think I've told you this, but maybe not in exactly these words. Kind of two things. One, well, I'll go back a little bit. I was never going to leave Manhattan. So we've talked about this, 100% extroverted and spent basically all of my time doing social things. And then the pandemic hit and ruined life as I knew it. And it was devastating for a lot of people in a lot of stronger levels than it was devastating for me, but it was still devastating for me. We moved to Atlanta, which sort of sounded like a really exciting thing and was a devastating move in my head. I was like, oh my God, I've given up on my dreams and I've moved home, was the way that it felt. And then I was locked in my house for 2 years because I had a baby and was scared of the COVID. And so things like this, or just places where I can be creative and use different parts of my brain, make me feel more whole again. So I was very excited in general just to do something that's creative and different. And I work from home. I work for myself. So I don't have a lot of people around me on the day-to-day. So that was a big, big driver, both in like the gardening community on Instagram and getting more connected with the community and doing fun things and coming up with creative ideas, and loved this creative idea. But the second piece of this, which you've heard, but I don't think anyone listening has heard, I'm trying to learn a new skill set in this. So one of the ideas for a show is, I'm sure if Brian could spend my $1,000 for me, it would be on a better setup, which I have a lot of the elements for. They're just not up yet. So a little bit of a how to do these type things and look really refined, even if you're just sitting in a home office. And so I've already learned so much just from talking to you over the last couple episodes you've done. So I'm kind of excited after 24 what I pick up.
Well, and some of what you do for your business, and what you just said kind of touches on that, but that's what I'm hoping, that by you doing this project with me and us kind of discovering how to do some of this stuff, or refining how we're doing graphics and how we do the video and stuff, both of us can take bits and pieces of what we're learning, and then go use that for whatever it is that you do. So whether it's part of your coaching and you do some of your videos, well, maybe you're wanting to do something to where you up the game with the lighting and the camera work and all that stuff. And how do you do that stuff? I think it'll be interesting for both of us to kind of figure that out and find it out.
Yep. Totally.
And one of the things that I think I identified with you on why I thought it was kind of a safe ask was, some people, and I understand it, depending on their job or security as far as privacy and stuff like that, they may be reluctant to doing certain things online.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whether it's because of their work or they're like, well, you know, I've got an image. This sounds not pretentious or anything, but you know, I have an image that, you know, I got to uphold, and I've run into that a little bit with some people with the whole Tossing Salad podcast type stuff, which I'm like, that's fine. And you're not the market that you're not the group that I'm going for. You're
Mm-hmm.
not who I'm trying to entertain. And it's
Mm-hmm.
okay. You know, because there are some people kind of, I don't want to, you know, I wouldn't mind coming on, but you know, and I said, look, if you have to explain it that much, don't worry about it. It's not for you. It doesn't hurt my feelings. And it helps me curate on who I'm going to interact with on here.
Yep.
And our stuff is separate from that, but I'm just kind of explaining to you, just even doing something kind of out there like this 24 live series, it's just different. I mean, not every show is going to be a home run, right? We're going to have some duds, although we haven't done a dud yet, even though nobody watches.
They're all amazing. Wait, you just made me think of something. 24 episodes? Is that because of your last podcast you did?
No, but 24 just was a number that kind of popped up because it's like a nice number. It was either 12 or 24, but you're referencing back in the early 2000s. I used to do podcasting all the time when
Yeah.
I had a sales job straight out of college, hated doing it. So me and this other guy would leave for hours on end during the day. I was a sales guy, so I had control over my hours. As long as I made my numbers, theoretically, nobody gave a shit what we did. As long as you bring in your numbers, you're not clocking in and out. We weren't hourly, but I hated my job. So to be creative, he and I started this podcast network, and our biggest show at the time was the show 24. I was on Fox, Jack Bauer. I don't know if other people have heard or seen that, counter-terrorist guy or whatever. And we did, I think seasons 1 through season 5, we had the number one show. We were talking to people from the show, executive producer, showrunner, stuff like that. And then season 5 hit of 24. It was like the worst season they could have put out. It was awful. And we just tore it to pieces. And we burned a lot of bridges by doing it. But that's the fun part. And that's where we had to, you know, be a little honest with people that were listening to us and be like, this season sucks, you guys. And we stopped after that. So no, it had nothing to, that number didn't come from that.
I'm just curious. I was like, was this a surprise I missed? Got to catch on. So, what we both need to get out of this, a little bit about ourselves. We had one last thing we have to make sure to cover today. Ooh, Amanda. Before I get to that, well, so I guess this will help Amanda's point. Something we have to cover today. We have to pick some basic details. We know we're doing 24, but like, when are we scheduling these? When's our next one? How frequent? And what should we try out for our first? Like, this is our inaugural, we're making it up as we go episode, but I think our next episode, we should try something out. So Amanda, one of your lives should be discussing if separating the artist from the art is possible.
I'd put it up and I had to take it down because I didn't know we were ready for that question.
I know, sorry.
So this is all part I have to massage, you know?
Well, I have this one saved. I don't have it saved written as eloquently, so I have used Amanda's language as it's more eloquent than my quick note. But that could be our first topic. So for anyone listening, just know that this is the live audience participation portion. And Patricia, great to have you today. We need to figure out how frequently should we do these? Once a week? Once every 2 weeks? I mean,
okay, so
twice a week? No.
So let's put this particular question from Amanda on ice for just a second.
Just a second. It's going to come to that, though.
So, good question. And we need to go over this. So, are we doing this show once a week, once every other week? I don't think you can stretch it out more than that. It's not like a once a month thing, because then what's the point?
Then we're doing this for 2 years.
Yeah, right. Um, the only concern I would have, and when I say concern, it's just something I have to think about, is that if we do this weekly, then what do I do with Tossing Salad podcast? And I have no problems over the, short term putting that on pause, because there's a few things that I've been wanting to do with going back and kind of remastering some of the old shows to how I do things now. And that's just something that a lot of podcasts do anyway. So I don't have to record new episodes. I can go back, remaster and edit all the older ones and bring them out as new stuff. That's not a big deal, but that's something that I would have to run through my head on what I want to do there. But I'm all for it if we determine that this has to be a weekly thing. And then does it have to be every specific Friday night? We probably need to hammer that out tonight.
Yeah, definitely. We should agree. My gut reaction is I don't love the idea of you not. I know that you've wanted to remix things with Tossing Salad, but I would want for this to still get to accommodate that. And so hearing you say it in that way, I'm like, this should probably be every other week.
The good thing about Tossing Salad is, one, because I'm the only one that does it, I can kind of determine what I want to do with it. And that's a test kitchen. I use that terminology quite a bit on a lot of things that I do. I'd like to test and float things out, that if I can, and if I can make things easier, I would totally do that every week, as opposed to right now it's every other week, just because of production side of things and why like I said, the computer issue is a huge issue for me with churning out clips and stuff, is because it takes forever to do it. Not because that's the way it should happen. It should be a lot quicker. But I'm physically, the bottleneck is the computer for me rendering out video files that I can't just get things done in a timely fashion. But if a show like this needs to be weekly, and that's something that you would want to do, I would not be opposed to that at all. But I my concern is, if we go every other week, we lose momentum. But I don't know your time. Like you guys are like a young couple. You guys have date nights. I don't know what the fuck that is.
Date night is something you do with young children. That's all date night is we have a babysitter for the night. That's it. We never did date night until we had a kid. Date night's I like to call it adult night, because our friends was like, oh, we don't want to crash date night. We're like, no. This is just adult activities night. Things that you shouldn't bring a 2-year-old to.
But you guys still seem to be, you guys are doing stuff. Like we do, our stuff is just being home. So I'm a little more flexible.
A hockey tournament all weekend.
That's all ending very soon.
You're like, that will be over.
Very soon. That will all be ending if they lose I'm happy for them because they won districts. So they're going out they'll be the Missouri team. So now we have to go out to regional stuff, which is going to be all next weekend in Chicago. But it could all be over next weekend.
You're going to Chicago for hockey? That's whoa.
Yeah, we used to do it every week in the league that we were in before.
Okay. So 24 weeks is almost 6 months. If we don't do it, this is some great Julie coming in with the maths. If we don't do it every week, this will take all year.
Yeah.
So here's my suggestion. I am down to do it every week or every other week. I don't actually have too much of a preference, but I'm definitely down to do it every week, though. I like the idea of thinking about it maybe a little flexibly, if possible. It might be a little challenging for me to say, definitely every Friday night versus could we do a weekend night in case it needs to float or move around, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think if we do weekly, then we build in at least the one thing I do think, this is a show that should be at night. I don't think this is a daytime show with you. Like, I don't think I can get into a window of where I want to be with you during the day.
No.
Brian during the day is not this Brian that you get at night. This is the Brian at night is what you want for this show. I'll just tell you that.
Well, we'll record our teasers during the day, so we're not at all on tune.
But I think it has to be a nighttime thing. And then I do think weekend, Friday, Saturday, or a Sunday night. Is that too flexible? Or, because
Julie, our voice of reason in the audience, she's coming up with all the good logic. I think that flexible. I think that could work. Like, Fridays should work. I just want to leave flexibility in an in case. Is twice a week possible?
I think there could be a bonus episode week that counts towards the 24 episodes. So where we can be like, you know what, we've got a hot button thing that we need to get on a Tuesday night to discuss.
Yeah.
And that counts as 24 episodes. I mean, I do think we're going to get to the point to where we're going to know quicker than the 24 episodes on if we're onto something. But I think I think a lot of the episodes are going to be us talking about how to do things, kind of like a tonight, and testing things out like that. But then we have to leave some room open to actually doing a test episode of whatever idea we come up with.
Yep.
So are we on the same page here? Are we saying weekly?
I think we're saying weekly, Friday nights. But like, if to be confirmed, if needed, we could switch it around to keep it weekly. And then if needed, we could also do an additional in 1 week. Is that fair?
That works for me.
And then your point of, we need to build the thing and test the episodes. I may float our next episode. I think we should test something more live. I like, I'm big on, I like agile systems and iteration. And so like, let's get something out there and see how it goes and see how it floats and kind of use that for the next episode as like data to say like, okay.
So are we saying whatever one of the ideas that comes up from tonight, the next episode is going to be us actually doing that episode?
I think so. I think let's try to start that way. And then the next episode could be like, what worked? What do we like? What do we not like? But this next episode we're just doing the episode. We're full committed doing it.
Okay. So then let's say episode 3 would be us looking back on doing it. Did it work well? Let's, put all the minds together. Let's get some feedback from people.
Yeah.
Did that work? Should that be something that we include in a podcast down the road on a regular basis? Or is that more of just for a live? Because some of these things that we do may only work as a live, and vice versa. Some things that we do may only work for a podcast and not necessarily a live.
I'm also thinking about our name. I think it's Brian and Chelsea Make a Live. Because we're not making a podcast.
So I was wondering that too. But all of our episodes are lives.
Yeah.
But I think what we're trying to decide is, do we get to a point to where we actually have a podcast? Because I think what's going to end up happening, if we have something that's kind of successful, it's going to be kind of a hybrid of both. I would probably try to figure out a way to make it to where the vehicle for us to distribute and get it out there is also in the form of a podcast and a live. But we'll see. We'll know at the end of 24 episodes. We should know, okay, what do we have here?
Okay.
And maybe that's a question we answer at the end of 24 episodes.
Write it down.
Plus, it just sounds better. Brian and Chelsea make a podcast versus Brian and Chelsea make a live.
Yeah, there's question marks there.
Julie, I think I am going to and this will help me out on Tossing Salad podcast, is I'm going to have this as this week's podcast. So I'm going to package this one up straight up just as a podcast, and I'll have a little talky talk at the beginning of it, introducing and say, hey, this is going to be a little different. This is a new show we're kind of spinning off. Check it out. And that'll be the podcast as well, because that could be me floating it out as a podcast for down the road.
Mm-hmm. I think that sounds good. So then the question to end all questions, what are we going to test next week? And I have a much longer list than what's been just discussed today. But what are we going to test next week to debrief on the third episode? And then on the third episode, we can change the format completely. But this is just a commitment for episode 2 and episode 3. What are we going to commit? What are we going to discuss next week? Is it helpful to remind somehow of our long list of topic ideas?
Like right now, to kind of go over some other ideas that either you or I have brought up?
I got a list of 22.
Which is good.
From our conversations, not from nothing.
Yeah.
I'm a note taker. I'm a process person.
So are we going to reward people that are here? And again, when we say people, that's plural, and that would mean Julie, Patricia, if she's still here. All I know is that there's 3 people here. I don't know, actually. I think Julie is still here. Are we going to let them decide? Can they take the pressure? Like, let's say if you go through a few of the ideas you had, plus what we talked about tonight, because I think tonight we had a ask us questions, and we can either, if we try to turn that into an episode, do we want to have a third person come in and actually be the person that asks the question to both of us?
So that was a big idea from tonight. I think that has to be up for vote, is the digging deep with Brian and Chelsea with a moderator. And I do like the idea of answer the tough question or dare.
Or drink? Because I mean, what are you going to do with a dare?
Or drink. You could do tons of things with a dare. The amount of embarrassing things I could do just holding a phone.
So do we want to, okay, so we've got 24 episodes. If we're kind of hot on this particular topic right now, do we want to flesh this out for the second episode? And then our third episode, we review if did that work. And then we go over on the third episode, we go over the list of things that you have.
Yes, I think, yeah. Or audience, I mean, Julie's like already voting in Amanda, Patricia. So like we got some votes already. I think maybe we start with this, and then maybe there's a way we can asynchronously get audience suggestions, because the list of 23 is like too long, 22 to say out loud. So maybe we could narrow that list down if we share the list and get some like immediate prioritization, because I only ever want to be discussing like 3 or so episodes to debate per.
Right.
23 is just too long.
Okay, so we're going to talk. Episode 2 then is going to be ask us particular questions. How are we going to set this up? We're going to have a moderator come on, and they are going to take in questions that we do not know. And it'll be easy questions, things to get for people to get to know us, in addition to some spicy ones that we may not want to answer.
Yes, I may actually recommend, based on, so we could solicit questions ahead of time, and there's so many really easy games like this. So we could get the moderator a set of like questions that you and I don't know, but like get them a preset list of questions like this, just so they could use audience questions, but we have to be able to like fill, let's say we have 3 audience members.
But yes, but we're also, the second life to these lives are going to be when they get reposted for other things, for clips and everything. But we're entertaining ourselves. That's going to be a fun thing. So we're going to get to know you and I So we're going to have questions. We're going to have a moderator come on, a guest moderator, guest host, which is always fun.
Mm-hmm.
Julie and Patricia are nominating Amanda, but she's not here to defend or deflect or accept. But I mean, Amanda is good at stuff like that. So, and I don't think she would say no.
Make sure
But
she's great.
we can certainly ask her. How else are we going to? So, and are there fun ways of categorizing the questions? Like, what I'm wondering is how much of this are you and I, going to organize?
Okay, we're gonna do two things. I think I'm gonna pitch. Julie, we're gonna pop a question box up in our stories, solicit questions. The second thing I'd recommend we do is have, and I'll pull one, a backup game. So our last girls' night we did. So I am friends with the girls I went to high school with. Like, very good friends. We've been friends since high school. We all now mostly hang out at kids' birthday parties together. But every now and then we do a girls' night, and this girls' night got very rowdy, and it just involved a very simple card game. It was basically truth or dare, but it was more detailed than that. It was basically truth or dare. And so I just need to find whoever is moderating a list of questions like that. So we solicit from the audience, we grab what we can, but then additionally, they can like pull without having to be creative, spicy questions. And then the idea of this game was you either answer the question, or you do the dare. And the dare was all stuff you could do without moving.
Okay.
And it was pretty hilarious. I mean, somewhat embarrassing stuff, but like, someone called her ex-husband and told him she was pregnant. So like, the dares were spicy.
What was the dare?
Call your ex and tell them you're having a baby.
Okay. Yeah. So
that wouldn't work for us, but I'm saying like that's the level of dare.
Okay.
So like, not dares you have to do sitting. So like, you either answer, it's like spill your guts. You either answer the potentially controversial question, or you eat the gross food. But we don't have gross food.
Okay. So are we? So is
Julie
Amanda?
says, "Oh my God, fire, fire, fire!"
So Amanda will ask her if she wants to guest host that, and then we will help with getting the questions curated to her that we don't see. So we can't. She would have to be the one to get questions from people.
Oh, additionally, this is where I would never have Brianna host this show because of our relationship. I don't think it would, my relationship with her, I don't think she'd be an even moderator. But this is where we could like assign a friend. Like Bree could post. People could post who aren't you and I, is my point.
Right. Well, if Amanda's the one that we're all targeting right now, why don't we get with her when the show's over in the next day or so, and then see what she thinks as far as getting questions from everybody.
Look at Patricia's comment. That's what we should do. Not a dare. We both have gardener backgrounds. What, Patricia, you don't know is I can't eat anything with spice at all. So I'm going to have to answer everything. Okay, so we're going to get, this is gold. We're going to get a stack. We are going to get a stack of food, probably spicy peppers. And we either answer the question or take a bite of the spicy pepper.
And then I think there should be a reward if you can make it all the way through and answer all the questions.
She says, "Oh, I'm sorry." And the reward.
Something like this, I could see also working out as the garden season goes on, because we're all growing peppers anyways, that we could eat peppers that we're actually growing. So this could be something that we also do down the road in the middle of summer, but we'll find something that is relevant to doing now at the beginning of March.
Could it, just so it's not just spicy peppers, could your wife go to the store? And similarly, I think my husband could go to the store and pick up a few items, like not many, but like 5 things that they know you wouldn't want to eat.
but to find them that are relative to what you wouldn't want to eat and what I wouldn't want to eat would be the hard thing, because it's not going to be the same thing.
No, they're not the same thing. So this is just what you wouldn't. So she would have to pick out what you wouldn't want to eat, and Mike would have to pick out what I wouldn't want to eat.
We could. Quite honestly, I'm going to answer every question.
I think I'm going to answer every question too. So we don't even need the other side. This is just an ask me anything.
Yeah. So let's just say Amanda, something happens to Amanda. So Julie or Patricia, would you guys want to be the moderator or the host? Because if you guys are here,
yeah,
don't feel like you have to or anything, or if you're not comfortable with it or you just can't. Not that, we're just putting you on the spot, but you guys are here. And I do think that, if you guys wanted to, I'd say, well, then you guys can just be the host, because you guys are going through all the details with us now.
That's a great idea.
So just let us know while we're still here. And I'm sure that, if there'll be plenty of times to host different shows too. So that's going to be our second one for next week. We're thinking maybe next Friday, maybe at least next weekend, right?
Yep. And we'll call it this segment a spoonful of mustard. We are
Patricia
idea people.
is an idea people. Patricia is a great idea person.
Great idea person. Julie, I think you came up with a name, Digging Deep. No? Wasn't that you?
And that could be the name of that particular episode.
Yeah, I think that's our variety episode name. Ooh, Elise may be able to sub in. Okay.
Well, perfect.
Got someone.
So so that's going to be the next weekend's episode. And I say that, and again, depending on how the kid does in Chicago, we may be going up that weekend. But I can take all my stuff with me. You know what I'm saying?
We gave ourselves some flexibility. Let's see. We're all cheering for your son. Let's hope he wins.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is I can take some of my stuff with me and do it like in the hotel room or whatever, is what I'm saying. It shouldn't be an issue.
Then we can watch Brian try to create his beautiful background in a hotel.
So we've got a good plan for the second episode. It's going to be, you want to give it the official title? Do we need to title it, or do you want to give it that title? Digging Deep.
I think
Digging Deep with. But
we're not titling the episode. We're titling the segment. Like the episode is episode 2, Brian and Chelsea Make a Podcast. Right. But if we're going to test the variety show. Yeah. So this is a segment we could edit, adjust, repeat. Perfect. But if we do maintain the variety show, the segment is the name.
Okay. And when we tease this out, I would tease out whoever is going to be the moderator to get some good questions as far as that are easy, that you and I can get to know each other a little bit more on. Mm-hmm. Again, because we're filling each other out on if this is going to be a good long-term thing. Again, we're going on a 6-month relationship here. But also to challenge people to try to come up with questions that are good questions that we're both like, ooh, are we going to answer that or not?
I agree. And I agree with what you said around we're probably going to answer all of them. Depends on how naughty you want to be. Elise. We're very open people.
Chelsea, I don't know about you, but I look around at the group of people that are around us within gardening. There's nobody that's going to shock you or I. I don't know anything. I mean, I honestly, I don't know enough about you either, but I just have a thing to where I'm like, I just don't think there's going to be other people that are going to be coming out of left field to give the person that started the Tossing Salad podcast a question that he's not going to answer. Does that make sense? And I think you're kind of the same way.
I am, but that's the challenge. There's no, because you're right, like spicy food, all that, we're not going to not do it. Although, if you watch Spill Your Guts, I think that people could come up with things I may not say on a live. Because it's more asking you to call people out in your life, or you would not want that recorded live.
Yeah, but it has to be. I mean, obviously there's going to be questions that you can come up with that just out of a simple taste that'd be like, yeah, that's just not. I think people understand. I think if
So
you come up with a good enough question that is legitimately, it's a good question, but it's one that's going to be very hard for us to want to admit to or talk about.
yeah,
That's a great question. But any one of us, I can go pull things from trolls on certain things that they say. Then I'm just like, I'm not. That's a dumb question.
yeah. So the
We
challenge
need a
is not,
safe word.
I know, the challenge is not, and maybe that would be a funny thing. The challenge is not necessarily we won't answer, or maybe it could be. We could have a say
See
like,
that
can you ask a question where
that's a
Brian and Chelsea won't
question.
answer and they have
Let
a
me
safe
let me
word?
ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever had to come up with a safe word?
No.
Oh, see, so
Brian's
you
like,
answered the
yeah.
question.
Oh, I mean, I'll answer that question, but I don't have an exciting answer to that question. S&M's not my thing.
Well, I mean, I was, I didn't know. I think that could have gone 50-50, but then I was going to ask the follow up, like, what are your safe words then? What could be safe words? But
Oh, for
anyways,
fun, I have discussed this with friends, but normally girlfriends, because it's not
but I'm
my
saying that's
preference.
the type of, that's a good question. That's a hard question, but it's one that it fits in with what we're doing, right?
Yeah. All that's coming to my mind right now is pineapple.
Why? Just because
I
of
have no idea
what it's
why.
associated with
Never have
online?
I ever.
Yeah, that would be another good, that'd be a good segment too.
Oh my.
Are you writing that down
I did,
or
I did.
typing that?
Um, I did. These questions could be never have I ever style too. Like someone could ask a never have I ever style question. That would be fair.
Yeah, but let's leave that for either a different episode down the road or if we kind of morph it a little bit. Because
Okay.
I think we may get into a position of where we can't settle on anything, and then all of a sudden we're up for grabs on everything about the next episode. I think we're
Yeah.
pretty close to getting this settled down.
How how about I liked, yes, I agree with you. I wrote it down. I liked your concept for this topic that we've already been discussing around like shocking us. I wonder if in terms of making it a drinking game, there could be something to where like when the question is asked, which we've never heard before, we have to answer it with a straight face or something like that. And like if we like laugh or hesitate or something, like if we do something that shows shock, you have to drink and answer the question. But first you have to drink.
Any variety of all this, I am totally up for. I just think that we need to keep that as a second generation of that particular game if we decide to either keep that game for down the road or because you know what I'm saying, if we keep adding things or changing it up a little bit, we're never going to
Oh,
kind of,
but what is it now? Is it just ask me anything?
well, it's both of us, so it's we're both getting questions from the host or moderator, one to you out of the easy question because they're
Mm-hmm.
going to have to separate it from like easy and then these are kind of the hard ones.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe there's 5 questions that are relatively easy and then 5 that are kind of hard. Something we'll just leave it up to them. Whoever's moderating can have it their way. So it'll be maybe 10 questions just so that we can contain the episode into an hour
Mm-hmm.
ish. But
So
they're going to need
the,
help. So yeah, there's going to be crazy questions. They're going to need help, but they're going to need but they have to be good crazy questions. That's what the moderator, we have to trust that they can curate good crazy questions also.
and depending on who our moderator is, because it may be Elise, but if it's not, Elise, Patricia, Julie, y'all could also post on your stories and just ask for like what's the best questions for an Ask Me Anything or the best questions for truth to see if
And
you can
then
get wild stuff.
yeah.
Um,
And then maybe even yeah, that's fine.
but you said prize if we get it right. So there's still this concept of like prize if we ask them all. There's still this concept of like, is it just they're asking us a question and we're answering, or
Do we want to have something at the very end to where people can say, there's 3 awards that we'll hand out. One is who had the best answers to most of the questions, who answered the hardest question, to where it's just a relative
superlatives from the moderator. The moderator picks random superlatives.
And then maybe there's something to where to reward people that are there live. Also, they can ask if there's other people in the live, and they can come up with a quick question in the next 2 minutes. Post your questions, I'll pick one, and then we'll tell the moderator, okay, this will be the last one. Pick something that somebody from the live is throwing out that's not one of the ones that we've put in the hats or whatever.
Okay. How about, what was the best question? Who had the best reaction to a question? And who had the best answer?
Yeah.
Easy, it has to be short because they're moderating.
Sure. It's something along those lines. And again, I think
like end it well.
Yeah. But then, we kind of let the moderator decide how they want to do it. And I guess that kind of depends on who's doing it. Because if it's somebody like Amanda, we can almost turn some of that over to her, because I trust her to come up with something that's good entertainment.
Yep. You need some sort of like, whose line is it anyway, winning system at the end.
Yes.
Like the points don't matter, but like give us a conclusion.
We can even do something like that. Like after each question, everybody can reward points, or the moderator will reward points. I love that you brought that up. So the moderator rewards 10 points to Chelsea for her answer there, and then 2 to Brian because that was weak.
Yeah. Okay. I think we needed a little bit more than just answering the questions, because we kind of did some of that today. So
yeah.
Yes. So the moderator will come on live. Whoever is moderating
would have to be comfortable with being on live. Yeah.
Yep. We have the functionary.
We're fleshing all this out on a live. But it's a different experience. If this were a podcast thing, it would still work as a podcast show.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a self-contained, and they're not. I think podcasts are easier on people that are a little shyer than a live, because you're not performing for people. It's just a little more intimate. That's how I look at it. So if you're nervous about doing a live podcast, may be your thing. If you're wanting to get a little deeper into, talking or sharing certain things, podcasts, I think, are just an easier form of a live.
Yeah.
But that's just me.
So I agree with that. Makes sense. My gut reaction has always been like, once it's a podcast, there's an expectation of editing sometimes, like unless you make it clear that your format is not highly produced. And so there's like an expectation of quality.
Yeah. Well, on these, they're gonna, like, this one here is gonna run exactly how it's airing. I'm not gonna edit any of this out. But I'm gonna let people know at the very beginning with the, hey, this is what we're doing. Check this out. If you're interested in this, come check out our lives each week, where the editing will come in, and that'll be fun. Also, it just takes some time, is going to be doing clips of the lives to throw those out there, because those will be fun. And it is fun doing things like this with somebody else.
I'm just seeing this happening in the comments, and then I'm following people. This is a small crew for right now, but I love that like people are connecting because of this. This is really fun.
Yeah.
I don't think Julie and Patricia knew each other. I wasn't following Patricia yet, and I am now. Look what we're doing, bringing people together.
We're all vouching for people. See, I'll go as far as vouch for both of those ladies.
Full circle.
Because Patricia and Julie, the amount of, for however long both of them have been friends with me on Instagram and within the gardening community, but one of the things that they do a lot of is, how do I phrase this? In terms of supporting me as a person and anything that I kind of do, it's always like, they leave very sweet comments. They're always kind of, like, Julie, Patricia are both will come over to YouTube because I'm trying to push YouTube recently. And they're trying to get, they'll watch some of my stuff and make some very nice comments or whatever. And we're all on YouTube right now trying to get our accounts going. So that's kind of nice, but it's just one of those things to where over time you build up people that are just out to kind of have fun also with you. So
I love it.
that's as far
Oh,
as I'm
you're
going to
gonna make me
vouch.
cry, Brian.
That's as far as I'm going to vouch for people. I said I don't vouch for people.
Oh, I love it. This is
So
well. While Julie follows up with "You're gonna make me cry," her comment before that was that we should have a cap on how long we're talking because people aren't gonna be willing to watch that long, which I think was like a subtle signal that we should wrap this up.
yeah, well, and that's one of the things that you and I are notorious for on our lives. I
We're
mean,
not
my
good at
God,
it. And
we went on for 3.5 hours.
that one
But
time.
yeah,
Suggestion on that though. I like to think of this as getting to our tight 5 in comedy, like stand up, give your like tight 5 minutes.
yeah.
We need to get Julie, what do you think? I'd say Patricia, I'd say like tight hour.
Hour or tight hour-ish.
No, it's a tight hour, so it can't be a tight hour.
It's where that's going to be harder is when somebody else is the moderator
That was hilarious. A tight hour
or
ish.
the host. But yeah, we will. I think once we get going again, you and I have this problem in our lives that even though all of the data that's coming to us, like there's nobody watching and this should have ended hours ago, you and I just end up having fun and they kind of keep going.
Yeah.
So, but yes, I am with you. Let's try to keep it. See, Julie's saying 90.
Lisa's saying hour. I don't disagree with hour.
I don't, that sounds right. An hour sounds right, but I guarantee you we're going to go over that. I know. Let's try it. Let's just see if we can do it. So that's another thing. Maybe episode 2, see if we can turn this idea and have it just go an hour.
And my pitch was comedy. So like you're working towards your tight 5. We're working towards our tight hour. It may take us 12 episodes to get there, but this is way better than we've ever done. If we actually end in 2 minutes, we just did a tight 90.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I feel like we actually, we kept on. I mean, tonight was supposed to be kind of a wide open, like, what the hell are we doing? And we kind of touched on that, but then we really focused in on a subject here at the end, which is good because then that helps us with keeping it tight.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm all for it. So let's go ahead and start trying to wrap this up. So recap what we come up with, and then what's everybody looking forward for next week?
All right. So moving forward, we have 23 more episodes that we're going to do weekly on a weekend night. Plus, once a month, we'll probably do an extra teaser on like a Monday or something. And our episodes will be an hour to 90 minutes long. How's that sound?
And then next episode is going to be what?
So next episode will be Digging Deep with Brian and Chelsea, our special segment, which is an AMA hosted by a lucky moderator. Time-wise, 8:39 for a minute, and then we'll get closer to 8:30, but it'll have to be 9 just for a minute. So our next episode is Digging Deep, special segment, Ask Me Anything. A moderator will be asking us questions. We'll be posting on Instagram, so check out Instagram stories. Our moderator and anyone else who's willing will request questions that you can ask us, and we'll answer anything. And then depending on the quality of our answers and responses to the questions, the moderator will have all the power to award all the points, and the points
That's
don't
fun.
matter.
I love it. That's super fun.
Cool.
And Julie and Patricia also, make sure you guys are following each other on YouTube because you both have YouTube channels. Gardening in the Prairie, I assume you have a YouTube channel also. So we all kind of go and I don't even. Does everybody have like a gardening account? Maybe, I'm assuming, right?
That's what they did, the
So,
gardening.
and real, I'm throwing this in very last minute. This isn't necessarily gardening. It just so happens that you and I are from the garden community, and everybody that's just knows us are probably from the gardening community, but it's not a gardening show.
I'm laughing because I think that was like really clear around the safe word conversation, but maybe not. Thrown in. This isn't exactly gardening.
So this is what just a kind of a throwaway comment in that when I initially pitched to Chelsea, I don't necessarily want this just to be a gardening kind of show. Although I have no problems with we're using all gardening people or whatever. I think that's kind of cute and that's kind of fun. But anyways, I was just throwing that out there.
Yeah. Not quite gardening.
Well, I think this was a good one.
Yeah. Lots of fun. Thanks everybody for joining and participating. A tight 92 minutes.
And yeah, we really appreciate you guys. I don't know. I'm kind of used to it doing these lives with 0 people, but it builds up. It makes me humble. I need to be humbleized a lot more. And doing things when there's 0 people watching is good for me. It really is. But it does, you guys, when you guys come on here and you guys are hanging out with us, that does mean a lot to Chelsea and I. Because now we can kind of brag that we had more than 1 or 2 people show up.
I want everyone to make humbleizing Brian trending.
Yeah.
Taking a photo for that purpose.
So this was really good. Okay, so we are done. You guys, appreciate you guys coming on, and stay tuned for episode 2 of 24 next Friday-ish weekend. So
can we have like a logging off?
Yeah, we need to have like a start and an ending, don't we?
Yeah, I want to have like a.
See, this is like we're dating. When people are dating and they can't just say bye or something. No, you hang up first.
No, you hang up. That could be our logging off.
We'll work on that for future episodes. We need to come up with a way to end the fucking show. So, Julie, thank you.
Just awkwardly end and then make it stop.
All right, I'm going to hit the button. Hold on, but don't you leave because
I'm not going to leave. I'm not.
Nobody else understands what we have some upkeep on the production side. All right, I'm going to end the broadcast. Thank you guys for showing up. We'll see you.
Bye.
The outro section of the podcast. This is where probably 90% of the people will tune out and exit after the fantastic interviews that we have. I'll keep it short and simple for you guys. By any chance there was an episode, this might have been the one that you guys took some enjoyment out of, and you're like, you know what, these are pretty cool. I enjoy getting to know some of these people. If you've enjoyed any of these episodes, those of you that have listened to the very end and you know these outros, here's my invitation to you. Whatever social media platform that you guys use most of the time, whether it's Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, if you can find the Tossing Salad podcast, that would help tremendously if you could follow and or subscribe. Costs nothing, and it helps the channel not only get certain things open and activated, but it gets the word out to where there's something going on here. We're going on our 6-month anniversary of the podcast. We're having a really good time doing these, and we're trying to get some traction, whether it's on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. So if there is a platform that you really like, that you use all the time, find the Tossing Salad podcast if you don't mind. And if you want bonus points, I'll tell you what, if you're on multiple platforms, find us. Tossing Salad podcast, follow, subscribe. That would really help us out. We'll see you guys next time.